Hello guys, welcome back to our anime explainer. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Swallowed Star original continent based on novel. So let's start. There were 3 main levels of progression: True God, then True God of Void Space, and finally, Eternal True God. To advance from one level to the next, the difficulty level continuously increased by leaps and bounds. The number of eternal true gods in the world of Jin said it all. Strictly speaking, there were 2 ways to become a true god. They were the godly power route and the law route. Between the two, the law route was most common. But if one chose the godly power route, the process would be much more difficult. And once one was successful in choosing the godly power route, the life genes at each level would be divided accordingly. There would be a total of 3 levels, and anyone who was able to attain the 3rd level, 90,000 times life gene level, would be regarded as a legend. In other words, going by the godly power route, one's life genes would have to reach 90,000 times to become a true god. The difficulty level was very high. But going by the godly power route, one could become a true god that was comparable to an eternal true god. Any true god who was able to achieve 90,000 times life gene level could easily become a true god of void space. Moving forward, becoming an eternal true god would no longer be that difficult. Luo Feng finished looking through everything at one go, but toward the end, he could not help frowning. The godly power route was so difficult. It required life genes to be multiplied by 90,000 times. It was almost unimaginably difficult. Before this reincarnation era ends, will I be able to achieve 90,000 times of my life genes? Luo Feng was not confident of achieving this himself. No matter what, I have got to try my best. Before this reincarnation era ends, if even I cannot reach 90,000 times life gene level, then regardless of my life gene level at that point, I will achieve a breakthrough to become a true god, right? After Luo Feng finished looking through everything, he said, "I want to look at some inheritances." "You may," the golden figure replied instantly. "This is the list of the various inheritances." The screen changed. All the text disappeared. In their place was a gigantic, detailed list of inheritances. The list was divided into refined treasures, automaton treasures, close combat treasures, and various other categories. 5,000 military credits, 10,000 military credits, and 100,000 military credits. TSK. This one that is worth 10,000 military credits. Why must any interested warrior be from a special troop in order to be allowed to trade for it? Looking down the list, Luo Feng was shocked to learn that these inheritances were, indeed, very expensive and required many military credits as payment. There were even some special inheritances that normal warriors would not be able to trade for, even if they could pay the price. So expensive. Huh. The second stage of the blazing godly power secret technique that a law master will be able to execute costs 1,000,000 military credits. Luo Feng was dumbfounded. He had not expected the world of Jin to possess such a superior blazing godly power secret technique. It was comparable to the first 2 volumes of Extermination. After going through the list of numerous inheritances, Luo Feng lamented the tremendous amount of military credits required. "I want to take a look at weapons like armors," Luo Feng said. "You may," the golden figure responded. The list on the screen changed again. After every name on the screen, there was a pattern design for each weapon or piece of armor, along with the military credits required and also the power of the respective armors. Luo Feng scanned through the list in one glance. True God level armors cost roughly 10,000 military credits. True God level weapons, on the other hand, vary in price. Weapons at the lower end of the spectrum cost 2,000 military credits, while weapons at the higher end cost as much as 1,000,000 military credits. As for True God level battleships, the cheapest costs 50,000 military credits. Luo Feng looked through every item on the list. Apparently, Palace-type Supreme True Treasures were the priciest. Next in line were Soul-type Supreme True Treasures, which required at least 30,000 military credits, followed by Domain-type, Armor-type, and last but not least, Attack-type. Of course, every category featured something unique. The most expensive attack-type treasure cost a whopping 1 million military credits. The most expensive palace-type treasure also required 1 million military credits. I have over 300,000 military credits, which means I can trade for a decent amount of supreme true treasures. Luo Feng secretly heaved a sigh of relief. The prices of supreme true treasures were not overly high. Just reading about the inheritances, seeing the weapon armor, and looking at some travel notes about the world of Jin took him a full day. Yet the golden figure before Luo Feng showed no trace of impatience. Luo Feng's eyes gradually lit up as he said solemnly, "I want to look at automaton-type treasures." Coming to the world of Jin, he had 3 major goals. The first was to gather enough true god corpses as materials to help him become a true god. The second goal was to probe into the secrets of the world of Jin, and the third was to find a suitable and powerful automaton-type treasure. He had Shawu wings and the boat of Mausoleum. One was for additional assistance while the other was for flight during an escape. Now, what he required was a treasure as a main attack weapon in battle. This is the list. The screen before the golden figure changed again. The list on the screen contained very few choices. Only a few dozen choices remained on the list like lonely souls, and yet, all these were true god-level automaton treasures. Obviously, those automaton-type supreme true treasures that were of higher levels were not shown at all. Luo Feng supposed that was because his power was still not enough. 86 kinds. Luo Feng looked through carefully. There were so few kinds left on the screen. For every kind shown on the screen, there were matching pictures and simple introductions. Black cloud wings. Luo Feng's gaze quickly fell upon one of the automaton-type treasures. Black cloud wings, true god-level automaton, ordinary. 150,000 military credits required for exchange. Python River Army warriors allowed to own this power. Strength, skilled in escaping, extremely high defensibility, skillful in restraining and entrapping enemies. Weakness, attack power on the weaker side. Earlier on, in 9 Smoke Marsh, the captain had used this black cloud wings to deal with Luo Feng. The restraining power was indeed powerful to the extent of being scary. Luo Feng supposed that if he had not used Boat of Mausoleum, and had instead chosen to use Blood Ghost Blade, he would most likely have to execute extermination, if he wanted to break free of the restraining power of black cloud wings and make his escape. And this is only a true god-level automaton treasure of ordinary standard. Luo Feng was amazed. At first glance, 100,000 military credits, 100,000 military credits, 120,000 military credits, 120,000 military credits, 130,000 military credits, 150,000 military credits, 300,000 military credits, 1 million military credits, 3 million military credits. Further down the list, the prices of different automaton-type treasures increased by leaps and bounds. The increase was soaring at a staggering rate. Even true god-level weapons could reach a price of 1 million military credits, not to mention automaton-type treasures. Regardless of how good the treasure is, if I cannot afford it, what more can I do? Luo Feng was not so overly ambitious as to look right to the most expensive treasure. Instead, he contemplated the list of automaton-type treasures that fell within the range of 300,000 military credits to 350,000 military credits. Very soon, he locked down his target. It was a huge blade that required 2 hands for a firm grip. It was extremely intimidating, yet beautiful. Misty Blade, true god-level automaton, ordinary. 320,000 military credits required for exchange. Python River Army warriors allowed to own this power. Strength. Upon transformation of godly power via the inner core of Misty Blade, an extremely strong attack power will be produced. Weakness. Consumption of godly power is extremely high. I need something with strong attack power, and besides, my main weapon is the blade. Luo Feng was a little tempted as he continued to look at it. It is only a true god-level automaton. Before reincarnation, it will be more than enough for me. The moment I transcend reincarnation, this blade will obviously lose some importance. By that time, it would also be good if it is left for my human race. It's just that, its functions kind of coincides with that of Blood Ghost Blade. Luo Feng continued reading on. One by one, he looked down the list. The further down the list of automaton-type treasures he got, the more unique and precious they became. Luo Feng even came across an automaton battleship that was comparable to his boat of Mausoleum, and an automaton battleship which had a self-initiated attack ability. The last piece. Luo Feng held his breath. The last one was the most expensive true god level automaton. It was named Wu Qi God. Wu Qi God, true god level automaton, unique item. This item was personally created by His Majesty the Godly King. There is only one. 30 million military credits required for exchange. Only true gods, or law masters, who have been sealed with a title have the authority to trade for it. Reminder, Python River Army warriors are not allowed the rights to trade for this. Strengths: 1. Extremely strong defense. His Majesty the Godly King chose precious and rare materials to make and further refine this Wu Qi God. Even eternal true gods could not damage it. 2. Extremely strong attack force. Possesses incomparably strong attack power. 3. Extremely fast in dodging. Wu Qi God's body structure determined its extreme agility. Weakness: extremely strong power requires an alarming amount of godly power. Godly bodies of ordinary true gods will be consumed to nothingness in the blink of an eye. Gentle reminder, since its creation by the noble Godly King, there has been no great being qualified to trade for Wu Qi God with military credits. Its power has merely been speculated and has not been tested. However, for the noble Godly King to stoop to the level of creating a true god-level automaton-type treasure, it must be powerful. Also, any creation by the hands of His Majesty the Godly King could never be of inferior quality. The conditions of exchange were personally determined by His Majesty the Godly King. Wu Qi God was an automaton treasure that resembled the form of a monkey, with a streamlined body and an agile tail. Just by looking at the picture, one could feel how dynamic Wu Qi God was and how fast its speed of movement must be. Wu Qi God. Luo Feng felt the temptation stirring within his heart. To Luo Feng, who had a very deep understanding of the ancient civilization, he was clearly aware of the value of Wu Qi God. It represented the ultimate perfection of a single-body type treasure. Shawu wings also belonged to this category of single-body type treasures. Only one great being could control it, and it would mainly focus on its role in the form of assistance. On the other hand, Wu Qi God could be regarded as perfection, minus the weakness of consuming godly power too quickly. It was perfect in all other ways. 30 million military credits. Luo Feng bellowed in his heart. Where am I going to find such an exorbitant amount of military credits? And, even if I did have 30 million military credits, I am not qualified to buy it. I must be a true god, or law master, who has received a seal to have the authority to trade for it. And ever since its creation by His Majesty the Godly King, no one has managed to trade for it. Luo Feng shook his head and lamented. The world of Jin had a far-reaching history. His Majesty the Godly King had disappeared a long, long time ago. From this, it could be speculated that the creation of Wu Qi God would certainly have happened a long time ago. The world of Jin had such a systematic selection process for choosing great beings, and yet none had ever managed to conquer Wu Qi God and claim it. This showed how difficult the process was. Receiving a seal. Luo Feng frowned, mumbling to himself. What does it mean by receiving a seal? I must be a true god, or law master, who has received a seal before qualifying to trade. A sealed great being seems to be someone with a much higher position than a warrior from a special troop. He looked at the golden figure in front of him. I would like to know more information related to receiving a seal. 500 military credits required, the golden figure said. This requires 500 military credits. Although he was reluctant, Luo Feng was clearly in no position to bargain. All right. He could only nod. The screen before him changed into a detailed, written introduction. Being given a seal meant that a great being was outstanding to the point of perfection. And upon reaching this level of perfection, one would be qualified enough to be sealed by being given a Jin name, representing the utmost glory. Every great being that had been bestowed with a seal held on an extremely high position. In the world of Jinn, the only great beings who had been bestowed with a seal were the four major generals, who had total supremacy over all the true gods of void space. Sealed with a Jinn character. Luo Feng was taken aback. The previous Duandong River had been sealed with a Wu character. Jinn. Wu. His Majesty the Godly King. Luo Feng nodded discreetly as he continued watching. The requirements for receiving a seal were very stringent. Of course, the moment one became a prominent eternal true god, he would be rewarded with a seal right away. As for true gods of void space, the number who could possibly be rewarded with seals was, instead, only 1 in a million. As for true gods, in the long ages since the day of Wuqi God's creation, in the whole world of Jinn, not a single true god had been sealed. After Wuqi God was created by His Majesty the Godly King, no true gods were able to be sealed. As for law masters, nobody ever got close to being sealed. Once someone became a sealed great being, his status would be greatly changed. First of all, he would be close to the four generals. Also, he would receive a great many benefits, like Wuqi God, which were invaluable. However, it was almost impossible. The requirement was so strict that it stopped countless talented great beings in world of Jinn, yet lots of talents from all the armies would desire to get sealed. Luo Feng read all the material and frowned. Trying to get sealed. How can that be? Luo Feng looked at the golden being in front of him and said, "Are there any tasks that can help me get sealed?" The golden being said coldly, "Yes." "What tasks?" asked Luo Feng. He wanted to try. He was very confident. After all, he was an inheritor of Duandong River. "Soldier from Python River Army, you're a law master," said the golden being. "There are only 2 ways for you to be sealed." Luo Feng listened carefully. "The first way," said the golden being. "You need to satisfy 2 conditions. As long as you satisfy these 2 conditions, you'll be sealed. The first condition is that you need to follow the godly power path to become a true god, and your life gene level needs to reach 90,000 times. When you're done, don't become a true god first. Let the 4 generals test it. Second, there are 10,081 games in the basic game of Rhinoceros Emperor game. If you can solve all of them, you'll meet the conditions. If you can meet both the conditions, you'll be sealed immediately. Besides, you'll have lots of privileges. Your status will be higher than all the ordinary sealed great beings, and you'll be equivalent to 4 generals." Luo Feng was dazed. It was insane. This is too, Luo Feng didn't know what to say. Who made these conditions? Luo Feng couldn't help asking. "The Great His Majesty the Godly King," said the golden being. It was crazy. Godly power path. 90,000 times life gene level. Even in the ancient civilization, that was very difficult, not to mention in the world of Jinn, where all the valuables were controlled by the army. The soldiers couldn't get the incredible opportunities, yet they still needed to reach a life gene level of 90,000 times. He was following the path, so that condition was still acceptable. However, 10,081 games of Rhinoceros Emperor game in a row. Was His Majesty the Godly King insane? Though there wasn't any time limit, it was madness to expect a law master to solve all 10,081 games. None of the inheritors of Duandong River could do that when they were law masters. Such a peerless talent might become the new Godly King in the future. Both conditions are insane, Luo Feng thought. If someone can satisfy both conditions, it'll be easy for them to become eternal true gods, and they'll have the brightest future, and will stand among the top beings of the entire ancient civilization. Insane. His Majesty the Godly King really thinks the true god level machine, Wuqi God, is that incredible. Luo Feng shook his head. There were many powers in the ancient civilization, and Jinn was only one of them. Once that kind of peerless genius was found, all the powers would try to seize him. There are 2 paths, right? Luo Feng asked, looking at the golden being. What about the second path? The great Godly King knew that the first path was too difficult, said the golden being. So he left the second path, so that all law masters can apply for sealing tasks. When the task begins, they'll know the requirements. They'll be required to complete a task, and once they complete it, they'll be sealed. Sealing task. Luo Feng thought. For every era, there would be a military task, and it was the only task. If he wanted to take another task, he needed to wait until the next era. What's the death rate of the sealing task? Asked Luo Feng. For every era, there will be soldiers applying for the sealing tasks, said the golden being coldly. Lots of soldiers from all the armies will participate in the sealing task, and the death rate is around 90%. Only 10% can live, and nobody has managed to complete the sealing task. Luo Feng gasped. In the endless era, nobody had been able to finish the task. 90% of the participants died, while only 10% of them managed to survive. Of course, they had failed the task as well. What's the task about? Luo Feng couldn't help asking. Soldier from Python River Army, as long as you apply for the task, you'll know when the next task period arrives, said the golden being. By the way, train yourself well before taking on that task. Go through some incarnation level tasks first. Luo Feng nodded. The giant lake was tranquil. A strange beast floated in the sky, and his wings were shaking. He looked into the distance anxiously. He was waiting for someone. Wu He floated in the sky and kept whispering to himself. Why hasn't he come? He just went to one arm spot. He should be here. Don't turn all the true god bodies into military credits. Milky Way, my life depends on you. I have lots of valuables, and if you want me to give you valuables, I'll give them to you. Wu He was worried. Suddenly, his eyes gleamed. A being appeared, teleported, and arrived in the area. Milky Way, Milky Way. Wu He's wings shook, and he flew toward him. Luo Feng took a look and smiled. No need to rush it. Let's go down first. Okay, said Wu He. Luo Feng dove and arrived on the island down there, followed by Wu He. Wu He looked around. This island is so well designed. Everything's so simple and natural, yet there's something special. I won't be able to do that. Only you can. Even my father can't do such a good job as you. This was designed by the soldiers who lived here before. Luo Feng waved his hands, and a stone chair flew toward him and landed in front of him. Luo Feng sat down and said, I'm lazy, so I didn't change anything. Wu He was dazed, then said, That's right. You're right, Milky Way. We need to focus on improving our power. Power is all that matters. Luo Feng looked at Wu He and said, Stop flattering me. You're really bad at it. Wu He felt awkward. He was the child of Northern True Ocean, so he didn't need to flatter anyone. He wasn't very experienced. I've kept your share. Luo Feng looked at Wu He. Don't you worry about that. Wu He relieved. But you need to show your sincerity, said Luo Feng. Show me your valuables. Wu He said, Just wait and see, Milky Way. An armor covered with green scales showed up on the ground. This is a true god armor I brought, and it's better than the armor from Python River Army. He took a look at Luo Feng, but Luo Feng didn't seem to care. Wu He wasn't surprised. He knew that it was impossible to exchange a true god body with a true god armor. This is a true god ship I brought from Northern True Ocean. Wu He took out the real deal. An ancient golden ship landed on the ground. Luo Feng took a look at the ship, then looked away again. Wu He grew anxious. This ship is a true god level ship. Luo Feng didn't seem to be interested. Actually, Luo Feng was quite pleased. Just as I expected, he thought. He's a child of Northern True Ocean Master, so it's normal for him to take a supreme true treasure palace out to flee, but I can't just let him go. He might have something better. This spaceship is worth at least 50,000 military credits. This is a good deal. Wu He got anxious. These are all the weapons and armors of law masters I gathered in 9 Smoke Marsh. They are all here. Wu He took out a bracelet on his claw. Luo Feng took a look and still didn't seem to care. Wu He grew even more anxious. Are these enough, Milky Way? He looked at Luo Feng. Luo Feng took a look. He was still a ferocious strange beast. His face was covered with scales, and he still looked fierce. Yet his eyes appeared weak. No, Luo Feng whispered. Luo Feng didn't care. He didn't believe that Wu He would only take these valuables out, particularly coming from Northern True Ocean. The master of Northern True Ocean was strict and had only allowed Wu He to bring this many out. He could still ask Wu He to go back to Northern True Ocean to get more valuables. There was still a long time until the deadline. Wu He could totally go back to Northern True Ocean and come back. Northern True Ocean was enormous, so Luo Feng needed to make the best use of it. Milky Way. Wu He clenched his teeth and stared at Luo Feng. I did bring a valuable out when I came here. I can give you that valuable, but I will need my ship back. Luo Feng's eyes gleamed. It seemed that Wu He had something more precious than the ship. Luo Feng's eyes gleamed as he gazed at Wu He. Bring it out. Wu He was being watched by Luo Feng. Left with no other alternative, Wu He, through gritted teeth, finally had to reveal the most important treasure he had brought along with him when he joined the army this time around. And Luo Feng, who saw the treasure appearing on the piece of empty land, immediately showed his great pleasure. A moment later, the deal was completed. Milky Way, I shall not further impose on you. Upon obtaining a true god corpse, Wu He left without further ado. Yes, yes. Luo Feng nodded and smiled, maintaining a friendly disposition. Wu He transformed into a streak of flowing light, and with one teleportation, departed. Luo Feng could not resist shaking his head as he sighed. He is truly worthy to be a child of the master of Northern True Ocean. Quite extraordinary, indeed. This deal is definitely worth it. The deal this time around had cost Luo Feng one true god corpse. As for Wu He, the price he had paid consisted of a true god level armor, a large quantity of Law Master weapon armors, and an automaton type treasure. This automaton type treasure was named 7 Searing Flying Armor, and it was pretty average in most aspects. However, it was most skillful in survival and escape, as it was very adept at changing directions and dodging. To have traded for it at the military point would have cost 120,000 military credits. On the other hand, if one wanted to trade it in at the military point in exchange for military credits, the treasure would only earn 100,000 military credits. This showed how corrupt the military point was. 100,000 military credits was enough to turn a hopeless situation into an advantage. Thus, one could stay alive. Furthermore, it was impossible to gain military credits if one had not completed the assigned mission. In fact, by gaining the true god corpse from Luo Feng, Wu He had not only managed to stay alive, but had also gained 10,000 military credits. Wu He had been quite careless in his considerations. Originally, he had thought that by bringing various treasures along with him, he could weather a disaster-level mission no matter what. Yet, when the mission had begun, he had been stupefied. First, it was the Great Melee, where he had merely managed to accumulate a partial amount of military credits. Then, after the series of melees, Wu He was aware that when the final battle between Xian Yu Mountain and Nine Smoke Marsh came to an end, both parties would be extremely vigilant. The idea of closing in on a few thousand law masters and killing them all by the edge of Nine Smoke region was a pipe dream. As for the 3 other troops headed by the captain, Ku Fa, and Yu Luo, every troop had managed to obtain at least a portion of weapons and armor. But Wu He was alone. With the other 3 troops moved about in groups, the moment he got involved with them, he was bound to be eliminated. The most terrible thing was that before he completed his mission, there was no way he could trade for anything at the military point. Therefore, he was unable to use 7 Searing Flying Armor to trade for military credits. His only recourse had been to turn to Luo Feng for help. After the deal with Wu He, Luo Feng still had over 30 true god corpses in his possession, so he was in no hurry to get to the military point to purchase treasures. Meanwhile, the warriors from one troop were continuously trying to establish contact with Luo Feng's transmission token. Milky Way, please. Help me just this once. I will never, ever forget your kindness. I am willing to give you all the other treasures I have with me to trade for one true god body. Milky Way, so long as you are willing to help me, from this moment on, I will only listen to your command. If you ask me to kill Captain, I will charge out and kill him without hesitation. Milky Way. They had not given up trying to get Luo Feng to spare them a true god corpse. At the moment, Luo Feng was in the military camp, and everyone could forget about trying to kill him. Instead, they had to keep their heads bowed obediently if they wanted to strike a deal with him. Luo Feng's reply was curt and straightforward. I only have one condition, he said. Use a treasure that is worth 100,000 military credits to exchange for one beast true god corpse. If you do not have any treasures worth 100,000 military credits, then I can't be bothered about whether you live or die. Previously, these warriors had been indifferent to Luo Feng's survival. Why should he concern himself with their fate now? Of course, if they could offer a treasure that was worth 100,000 military credits, it was still worth considering whether or not he should deal with them. He was, after all, here to fight for the future of his race. Luo Feng was filled with greed, yet these warriors were wallowing in poverty. There was no way poor soldiers would own treasures worth 100,000 military credits. The captain would certainly have such treasures, but he had already managed to seize a true god corpse. That was why Luo Feng spent his time cultivating and waiting. But after 1 full year, not a single deal had been successful. Milky Way, you're too greedy. Luo Feng, you really don't deserve to live. Loathsome. Unable to get what they wanted, the soldiers were furious to the extent of hatred. But Luo Feng wasn't bothered in the slightest. As if I care whether you all die or not, he jeered. It was the 3rd year after Luo Feng finished his military mission, and once again, he was at the military point to exchange the 7 searing flying armor, and the other 33 true god corpses for military credits. Then he began trading for treasures. He mainly spent it on an automaton-type treasure, Golden Claw God, which used up 400,000 military credits. The remaining military credits were used to purchase a domain-type Supreme True Treasure, True God level, which cost him 30,000 military credits. Golden Claw God. Luo Feng stood in a big hall within a gigantic stone house on his own island. The hall was empty except for a golden sculpture that stood erected. Luo Feng was looking very carefully at this golden sculpture. Golden Claw God. Luo Feng said softly. A single body type automaton treasure. It can be considered to be in the same category as that most mysterious Wuqi god. However, it has much lesser power. This so-called less power was a matter of relative comparison with Wuqi god. After all, this was an automaton-type treasure that he had spent 400,000 military credits on. It surely must have been more powerful than Black Cloud Wings and the few others. Defense, attack, speed, strong in every aspect. Luo Feng nodded slightly. It is complete. Being strong in every aspect meant that it might not be invincible in all aspects, but it did not have any shortcomings. Deep in his heart, Luo Feng was eyeing up Wuqi God. That was why he got a simplified version of Wuqi God, Golden Claw God. In his heart, he was inclined toward such automaton-type treasures without shortcomings. Previously, he had not had enough military credits. After giving up 7 searing flying armor, he had finally accumulated enough military credits. Let's try using it. With a move of intention, the golden sculpture flew swiftly to land on Luo Feng's body. Golden light began flowing in an instant. It enshrouded Luo Feng in his entirety. Right away, he transformed into a lofty, golden monster wearing a mask. This golden monster took the form of a human, had a pair of claws in place of hands, and also a pair of claws for legs. Its head was triangular, and it exuded a wild, fearsome aura. Because he was wearing Golden Claw God, it had forced his Python River Army's standard armor into a temporary retreat. The two would never be able to coexist. Luo Feng felt as though he had transformed into a supreme true treasure armor. Blazing godly power. Luo Feng made a move in his mind. Blazing godly power rapidly integrated into the golden claw god armor, and powerful energy coursed through every secret engraving found in this golden claw god. Yet the result was uncontrollable. Apparently, the internal secret engravings were much more difficult. Luo Feng could only stop his godly power from blazing further so that he could first comprehend these secret engravings carefully. Given Luo Feng's level of secret technique, he had to study for more than 3 days to finally comprehend how to control this entire golden claw god. Very quickly, a great amount of blazing godly power was infused into golden claw god, which then coursed through the countless lines of secret engravings. The precise union of godly power and secret engravings finally gathered at several points of the entire golden claw god armor, namely, 1 point on the back, 2 points on the shoulders, and 2 points on the knees. There was a total of 5 main centers. Energy conversion. Golden filaments of tenacious energy were speedily transmitted to every inch of the entire golden claw god. The golden energy and golden claw god were so compatible that there was a sudden outburst of energy. Just as I thought, said Luo Feng, delighted. This is definitely something quite extraordinary. Simply 1 conversion, and the energy is increased by 2 levels. My 9th tier attack, if executed with golden claw god, will it become an 11th tier attack? Luo Feng felt how truly impressive this automaton-type true treasure was. With this treasure, I was already standing at the peak of Universe Ocean. With this golden claw god from the ancient civilization, who within Universe Ocean can be my match? Luo Feng was extremely satisfied. In terms of combat power, he was now even stronger than Teacher Origin had been back when he was at Luo Feng's current level. Of course, this was possible for him for 2 reasons. 1. Teacher Origin had not known of the secret technique of blazing godly power, and 2. Teacher Origin had not had an automaton-type treasure. With the influx of various powers from Universe Ocean entering the world of Jin, the combat power of the entire universe of Ocean would also increase in its entirety. However, only warriors from special troops were qualified to trade for automaton-type treasures, and the amount of military credits required was costly. Within a short period of time, various groups of powers from Universe Ocean, who had intentions to trade for automaton-type treasures, would face great difficulties. After obtaining Golden Claw God, Luo Feng put great effort into studying it, even to the extent of specially wearing Golden Claw God in the space of inheritance within the boat of Mausoleum for cultivation. Time and again, cultivation had caused Luo Feng to sigh. His emotions were running high. No wonder the ancient civilization had records that expressed great compliments for automaton-type treasures. Other than the beings that stood at the peak of the ancient civilization, ordinary great beings would also be able to make use of automaton-type treasures to release outbursts of power that far surpass their own. A complete Golden Claw God could enable the power to soar by 2 levels. This is only for single-body automatons. For those in groups, with thousands of true gods up to millions of true gods controlling the automaton-type treasure, Luo Feng sighed. Large-scale wars were like that. When millions of true gods were controlling a single automaton-type treasure, they would dare to go after an eternal true god. Time passed. It was the 5,600th year since Luo Feng first arrived at the world of Jin, and Wu Yi had secretly gone to Luo Feng's island. Milky Way, Milky Way. Did you know? Captain and the others are back. Wu Yi seemed to be gloating over their misfortune. Oh? Luo Feng was surprised. Half an era had passed. He had almost forgotten about the captain and the other troops. How are they? How else can they be? Of course, they are in a mess. Wu Yi's hideous head was swaying about. More than half of all their troops were killed. Even Yu Luo has died. Ku Fa made it back alive, though. Yu Luo is dead. Luo Feng was shocked. Yu Luo was a leader in that troop. It should not have been difficult for him to accumulate enough military credits. Who knows? I heard the battle was very intense, Wu Yi lamented. From the start, this might have been a disaster-level mission, but it should not have been severe enough to claim so many lives. I also heard that Captain had been way too vicious, forcing Ku Fa and Yu Luo to finally enter a state of frenzy. Yu Luo died, and Ku Fa barely survived. And in the meantime, Captain seems to have gained quite a lot. Those experienced warriors had suffered a severe loss this time, but Luo Feng and Wu He, the two new recruits, showed no traces of sympathy. Of the warriors who had made it back alive, some bore hatred for Luo Feng. There were even some who would curse and swear angrily when they flew across Luo Feng's lake island. They only acknowledged him in regards to his impressive ability to move and dodge. They did not fear him, but if they were to see how Luo Feng killed true gods, they would likely not have dared to disregard him anymore. A pity. Only the captain had managed to personally witness such a situation, but he would never publicize such a matter. Of course, there were some who hated Luo Feng and also some who simply could not be bothered with him. But there was also a final portion that would take the initiative to get acquainted with Luo Feng. Let there be an uproar then. I am just a passing traveler. I just hope that before I leave the world of Jin, all of you are still alive. Luo Feng was not concerned about these warriors at all. During this quiet period, he had gone to the military point to apply for a mission to receive a title. Receiving a title was dangerous, yet there was a 10% chance of survival at the very least. Luo Feng self-assessed that he was absolutely within the top 1,000 of the most top-notch elite warriors, so his chances of surviving were high enough. Furthermore, he had the ability to divide his body. This mission to receive a title. Why not give it a shot? Time flew by. In the blink of an eye, an era had passed since Luo Feng first stepped into the world of Jin. Time flew by just like that. This video will end here.